Good morning, Chuck here at Amish, PA. I recently got back into film photography after abandoning it for about 30 years. I started collecting vintage cameras back in the 1990s, and I furthered my collection just recently. In all those years, I never put a roll of film through any of those cameras. Once I started shooting film again, though, I decided I didn't want to have to pay someone to scan my negatives. So I started researching some DIY scanning setups on YouTube and elsewhere. And then after I looked at them, priced them, I decided to have a go at it myself. I wanted to make it heavy and stable enough so that I could mount my Pentax KP with a 105mm macro lens on it. And this is a very heavy setup, and I didn't want it to crash down on me and break something. So let's take a closer look at this, and we'll see how I put this together. First thing I want to point out to you to show how stable and steady this thing is. This has been on the tripod ball head now for 12 days. And I leveled it up 12 days ago, and she's still spot on. This hasn't moved a bit. So this is heavy duty enough to handle probably any camera you can put on here, and it's not gonna move. So let's take a close look at what I've done here and how I put this thing together. First thing I did, I went to Home Depot. I got 4 or 5 of my items at Home Depot. And one of the things I bought was this 3/4 inch by 12 inch by 24 inch white melamine shelf. Now these shelves are made out of particle board and they're coated with the melamine. And you can see one edge isn't finished, and that's what it looks like on that edge. And these are pretty darn heavy shelves. It makes a nice heavy base, and it's long enough so it's not going to tip. Not going to tip sideways, not going to tip front and back. Right? Then I picked up a 3/4 inch floor flange. This one here is in black steel. You can get them galvanized, but this one is not greasy at all. So that's where I didn't want the grease. I didn't want the grease on the pipe, so it didn't really matter on the floor flange itself. So I ended up getting a black floor flange, 3/4 inch. I wouldn't go with 1/2 inch on your pipes, because 1/2 inch is going to be harder for the clamp to clamp onto, and it's not going to be as stable. So I went with 3/4 inch. I laid it out. You can see how I laid this out, and it's off center because when the camera and things are mounted, mine shifted off center. So my camera lens is here straight down, and you can see it's off center. I had to off center the flange to make sure my camera was centered. Okay. And that gives your center of gravity towards the center here, rather than if you mounted this, if you mount this in the center of the board, then your camera is shifted to one side, and then it makes it a little bit more tipsy. Okay, so my center of gravity is pretty much right down the center of the board here. Now once I figured that out, where I needed to shift this to, and mine shifted 1 3/8 inches. I went ahead and I measured a few inches from the back. I marked my locations for the 4 screw holes. I drilled my holes smaller than the diameter of the screw, of course. And then I used some wood glue. I put a couple drops of wood glue in each hole. Because this is particle board, it's really easy to strip out. So I use the wood glue in there to solidify that hole, and it soaks into that particle board and just makes a nice solid gripping surface for the screws once it dries. So then I put these in by hand. Don't use an impact driver on them because you're going to drive them in, strip them out. So use a hand screwdriver and drive those in. Okay. So let's take a look so far how much I have invested just in the board and the flange and the screws. Okay. The white melamine shelf was $7.47. The floor flange, $8.44. And a little 6-pack of the screws was $1.38. And here's the screws here. I use an oval head Phillips screw. They look nice in there. They sit right down in. They're not like a flathead that's going to sit down into that chamfer, but they do make a nice solid setup. So that's what I use there. Now on the bottom here, under here, I use some heavy duty anti-skid pads, and I got those at Home Depot also. They're about this big around. They have a hole in the middle. They're rubber with a metal inset, and I just pre-drilled the holes, and same thing, a drop of glue, and then put those pads on. Let me see if I can't just tip this over a little bit, and I can show you those pads. There they are right there. A lot of these units that I see DIY, they don't put those pads on the bottom, and then they have trouble leveling their whole setup. Well, when you put the pads on the bottom, you're making 4 points of contact with the table that you're putting this on, and that's a lot easier to level, especially if there's a slight bow in these boards. These 4 contact points takes that worry away. So I would definitely use those 4 contact points, those pads in the corners. And those pads cost $6.93. Okay. So far now we have our base. We got our 4 pads in the corners. We have our flange attached. Now after you attach this flange, give it a few hours for that glue to set up before you start putting a lot of weight on this. Once that glue set up, then I have a 3/4 inch by 30 inch pipe, galvanized pipe. Now I use galvanized because black pipe is coated in an oil. You can take it off, you can wipe it off and keep wiping it off, but you're still, no matter what you do, it seems like it's always going to leave black film on your hands. Plus it's slippery. So use the galvanized, which has a little bit more of a rough surface, so that your clamp up here can clamp on and not have to worry about it slipping. Right. That 3/4 inch galvanized pipe was $17.88. So these 5 items here all came from Home Depot. When I first did this, I had an 18-inch galvanized pipe. I thought my macro lens would focus down to, I think it was 14 inches. In my head it was 14 inches, but it's not. It's 18 inches. So I have 18 inches from the bottom of my lens down. That's my minimum focus. So I had to replace my 18-inch pipe that I bought with a 30-inch to make sure I had enough, room here to focus this thing. Right? So yours might be a different situation. So you go ahead and you figure out what length pipe you need for your upright here. We got the base done. Now I went and started searching for good quality clamps, tripod heads, and so on. So let's take a look at what I ended up buying. Up here is a super clamp with a ratchet handle. Okay. Now that's good if you're going to tuck this against the wall or something, because you can tighten this down and not just keep having to turn it. You can pull this out, pull it in, and tighten it more like this. So it pulls out, then you can put it back in and tighten it. Yeah. Now that super clamp and the stud that I needed, this stud right here, came from B&H Photo out of New York City. And the super clamp is called an Impact. The company is Impact. Impact super clamp CC106R was $19.95. And the Impact 3/8 inch standard stud was $4.50. And here's the packages that those come in. The standard stud, 3/8 inch, and the super clamp package look like this. And there's the model number again. And it's the one with the ratchet handle. That's what the R stands for up here. Now, this 3/8 inch stud I needed because my tripod head was a 3/8 inch female fitting. So this super clamp comes with a 1/4 inch stud. So if you wanted to go with a 1/4 inch tripod head, you can go ahead and use the stud that's with the clamp. But I switched it out because I wanted to go with a heavier duty ball head here that had a 3/8 inch female thread here inside of it. Okay, so there's the super clamp. Let's take a walk around and take a look at that. Okay. Now from the super clamp, I went into a heavy duty tripod ball head here, and I'm going to slide my camera off there just for a second. That's just loosening one screw. You can slide the camera right off. So here's what that ball head looks like. And of course it has your insert here. That's on the camera right now. Okay. So that just threads right here into that stud. All right. And here's the bottom of my camera. You can see the other part of that. And I like that. It has a nice little handle on that screw right there, so it could screw right into the bottom of my camera, nice and solid. And that just slides back on like that. And you can see that screw on the other side over there. It tightens it up right there. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten that back up. What I like about this too is this can't drop down. If that screw loosens up a little bit, this can't just slide right on through. It catches, so the camera never gonna crash to the ground here. Let me tighten that back up good. Now where'd I get that ball head? Believe it or not, that tripod ball head came from Temu. I just happened to be on Temu one day and I was looking up some photography items, and this tripod ball head showed up for a pretty good price of $24.47. So I said, hey, I'm going to go ahead and read the reviews on that, and they were really good reviews. A lot of good reviews, said it was really heavy duty, and that is a really heavy duty tripod ball head. It's made out of an aluminum alloy, got 3 adjustments on it, and it's really worked out well here. You know, like I said, for 12 days, this thing has been mounted on here and it hasn't wiggled a bit. So you can tighten these right down nicely. Here's the little pamphlet that came with that ball head. There's the ball head right there. And here's what it looks like on the Temu site. If you can see that right there. And it's really nice. I mean, it's heavy. It's heavy and it's substantial. Okay, so I went with that for I think it was $24.47, the same price today. Okay. And then that's all set up, got my camera on there. Now I ended up buying this 3-way level right here, and I got that from eBay, a company called Circuit City, and you can level up 3 different directions, and it fits right on the hot shoe. It's just a little cube. See it right there? And it's got all sorts of little bubbles in it. I can bubble this way, and there's 2 that way. So you can see that right there. It's 3 different axes. And how much did that cost? That was $7.95. And again, that came from eBay, Circuit City. And the make is Optica. It's called the Optica Standard hot shoe, bubble level 3-axis. Last things we need a light source. And here's the light source I went with. Be careful if you buy a light source that it's not a cheapy model that has the bright lights that you can actually see through the cover. That's no good. You need this to be diffused, translucent, and because the cheapy ones, you're going to see dots. You don't want that. So I ended up going with a CS Light company called CS Light Source for $34.95. And I got that from Robert's Camera. And here's the box that came in. And you see the price right there. Comes right out of the camera shop, $34.95. It's for slides and negatives, full color spectrum, 5-volt USB powered. And we'll get that plugged in a minute. I'll show you how bright that is. It's got 3 different settings. Now the last thing we need is a film holder. Now you could put your negatives right on top of here and then put a glass on top of that. But I don't know, I think that would give you some aberrations, some light aberrations somehow, you know, going through a glass lens, basically another glass lens. So I ended up getting this film holder here, and this was printed, 3D printed, got nice little rubber feet on it, and I'll give you where I got that from in a minute. But the film slides in, the negative slides in the slot right here. It's got slot built in the sides, and it's got the slot on the other end so the film can come out. So it sits pretty flat. It's not perfect, but it actually, I haven't had any problem with it. Now what I like about this film holder, and this is for 120 film, that it fits right on that light source perfectly. And that was just dumb luck. But that CS light source and this 3D printed film holder right here, it fits right on there perfectly, and it can't slide side to side. It fits right on with those rubber feet, and those rubber feet sit right onto that glass, which makes it really nice. Now, I'm going to give this guy a plug here because he did a nice job 3D printing this. And we'll take a closer look at it. It's got the little feet on it. No rough edges. Film fits right in nicely. And it sits like that. Now I got that film scanning tool, and it's called on Etsy My 120 Film Scanning Tool. There's actually a My in front of this. That's what he calls it. My 120 Film Scanning Tool. It's $19.99 plus shipping. And it's from Etsy, like I said, from Danny Daughter Gamer. That's the name of his little company, Danny Daughter Gamer. It's really a nice 3D printed negative holder. And I'll show you here in a second. Let me find my film. I got a piece of film here somewhere in my mess. There it is right here, sitting right across here. And it tells you right there, I don't know if you can see that. Come over into the light a little better. It says input right there. So we're going to take our film, slide it right into that slot. Okay. And it slides along like that. Okay. We got our base, 4 little feet, flange that we attached with some glue down in the pilot holes. Give that a couple hours to dry. 3/4 inch galvanized pipe, an impact super clamp, 3/8 inch tripod ball head. I got that from Temu. That mounts right into your camera. An Optica 3-axis level that goes into the hot shoe, the CS light source, and lastly, our negative holder for 120 film. Let me get that light source now turned on, then I can show you how this all works here. Now this light source is a USB light source. For more money, you can get these light sources that actually plug into a regular outlet, and they also take batteries, some of them, so you can use it without hooking it to something. But I went ahead and got this one because I usually have my computer pretty handy anyways for the USB hookup. Let's go ahead and turn that on. Okay. And it's got 3 different settings. It's got warm, it's got a white, and it's got a cool. So you have the cool, which is a bluish tint, the white, which is pure white, and a warm, which is a reddish tint. So I'm going to go with the white. And you can see that right there. I'm getting a lot of glare. I don't know if that's picking that up very well in the GoPro here. Let me just turn my camera on. And there it is. Hey, I hope you found the video helpful. I'll give you a screenshot here, one more screenshot of my supply list, and you can look at that at your leisure. And if you're wondering, that totaled up to $153.91 plus tax plus shipping for anything that needed to be shipped. So over $154, this will pay for itself in 19 scans. I was paying $8 for every roll I had scanned at the photo shop. So not a bad price. Okay, something that'll last, it's gonna last forever. Nice heavy duty. If it can hold this brick up, it can hold your cameras up more than likely. So again, thanks for coming along. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope I gave you some helpful hints about to build your own film scanning tool here. And I hope you guys have a great day. We'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.